Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello there. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. We have a special show tonight. All of them are special. This one is extra special. I'm bringing to you an author and speaker, NiKeidra DeBarge. And yes, she has a famous name, but she's going to tell us her story. But before she does, let me just say, you look wonderful tonight.
Thank you.
And I really like this backdrop. You got casing without
Thank
icing.
you.
Cake without icing. I say the
Yes.
PACE for me. I
Yes.
really like that.
Thank
I really
you.
like that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Nikedra.
Well, I am a mother of four. I have one son and three daughters. They range from ages 23 to 12. My full-time job is a project coordinator for a program for a company or organization called Wedgwood Christian Services. So I run a human trafficking program where I do a lot of training and education on human trafficking and awareness in the community. Um, and I've been at Wedgwood for about 18 years. I've been doing the work, I've been running the Manasseh Project for the last 10 years. And then I also have a nonprofit that I co-founded in 2012 called New Destiny Pathways. And that is for young women who are aging out of the foster care system. So I provide housing and life skills education to young women who are coming out of the foster care system.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
That's impressive. You and I have never met, so I'm going to be asking you questions that are kind of interesting. You're going to be like, "Didn't you know that?" No, I'm sorry, we have never met.
Please go
I
out.
saw that you had a big birthday recently.
I
We won't say how
did.
much. They can all go to your social media if they want to know, and they can fridge you. If they, and you also launched your book,
I did.
and it was a huge success. Can I play a clip from that launch?
Please do.
Okay, I'm excited about this one. Hold on.
And I think that being an author, I'm just here to go to Hawaii.
Nice clip.
Thank you.
That was your 40th birthday and the launch of the book, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so this book I haven't had. I've been kind of busy, and I haven't had time to get the book. I haven't had time, but I did read some of the reviews. Now, everyone, I need you to know that she would prefer if you went through her website if you're interested in buying the book. However, because Amazon doesn't say who bought the book, but I want to read some of the reviews from Amazon. Can I read some?
Yes, please.
And I understand you have not read these, so they're gonna kind of be a surprise for you, right?
Most of them, yeah. I already
Okay.
read a couple.
Let's see. I'll go. I'm so proud to see my childhood neighbor soar to new heights while being transparent in her healing journey to greatness. Kudos, Nikedra. I know Big Ma's proud. Keep shining. That's a nice one. Um, Wow, this book is extremely powerful and well written. Some may think the theme of this book is encompassing pain stemming from addiction and divorce, but this is really a story of hope and healing. You may have heard some similar messages in other books, but never with such tenacity and authenticity. Nikedra led us into her world while providing us motivation and gems of advice to cast our burdens onto God for a better future. Highly recommended. That was
Yes.
looks like Callie. And there are a couple of ones. A must read. This is a Kindle customer with no name. What a book! I read it in one setting. Your strength of your marriage was amazing. The letter from your daughter made me tear up, and I don't want to cry. So anyway, you got some amazing reviews, and that's only a few of them. I think you got maybe 10 on Amazon. That's
Awesome.
pretty good because you just launched like a week ago, right?
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
2 weeks now. Man, the time is flying.
It's flying. It's all a fog right now for
Yeah.
you. You are. I'm loving. I'm absolutely loving the space that you are in, and I don't even know you, but I'm just sitting around picking up on the great energy. So
Thank
tell
you.
us, just start from the beginning or wherever you want to start. Just share your thoughts on the book and the journey and all of it.
Well, I'll say it was a interesting process. I had a wonderful marriage for the most part. Like my ex-husband and I were really close and best friends. We had started dating at 14 and 16. We ended up getting married at 18 and then having 4 beautiful children. And so when I found out about his addiction, that kind of turned our world upside down. But I still had a lot of amazing things happening in my life that I still had to fight through, that I still had to accomplish. And so, for a while, I wrote in my journal, when I was struggling. I'm a woman of faith. And so I stayed connected to my church family. I'm a big people person. So I have lots of friends and lots of people who I share time with, and I have a wonderful village. And so they kind of carried me through a lot of what I had experienced. And I started, actually, never had any intention of becoming an author. I actually just would write in my journal and was trying to get through, and then eventually my pastors launched a program called Project 45. And they basically, you were to get a project and you were to work on it for 45 days. And so I committed to to writing the book. And so that kind of pushed me. But prior to me to even the Project 45, I felt I kept, so God kind of was talking to me and was just like, you're worried about his book. What about your own book? And I was like, you ain't talking to me. I'm not a writer, But then eventually he just started waking me up in the middle of the night and just dropping stuff, downloading things. And so I had to keep my phone and my journal next to me so that I could write down. And I was like, okay, God, I got it. I get what you're saying. I'm going to do it. I need some sleep. And so eventually, when the Project 45 came around, I said, well, this is a good time for me to get started. And so I worked on that for the 45 days, and that kind of pushed me. I played around with it for a minute, and then I finally got serious about it when I started to see things flowing out of me. And so I felt like it was purpose behind it. And so I'm usually one of those people that if I set my mind to something or if I say I'm gonna do it, I feel defeated until I do. And so, well, I wouldn't say defeated, that's not a really good word, but I just feel like I can't stop until I get it done, at least something. And so that's basically what happened. I continued. I ended up hiring a editor, and one Days got, she ended up being my editor coach. So when days got really hard, when I had to put it down, because it was painful, or because I was tired of writing, I didn't want to talk about it, or because I would hit a wall, she would say, well, flesh out this a little more. I wanted to be careful because even though he and I are divorced, I still wanted to protect that space, and I wanted to protect him because he's my children's father, and we're friends. We were friends first. And so it was easy for me to talk about the DeBarges and talk about, because I've been in the family for over 25 years, but that wasn't what it was about. That's still my family, and they will always be my family. And so it wasn't an opportunity for me to talk negatively about the family or about the addiction. I just wanted women to, as I was writing, I didn't know what the purpose of it was at first. And so eventually I came to the point where I recognized that I was going through something and I needed for somebody else to be able to heal too. Like I was a sacrificial lamb kind of, because I had the strength to do it and I had the village. Not everybody does have that. And so I think the purpose behind writing that book was to encourage someone else who may have had the same experience and don't feel like they can get out.
How long have you been divorced?
About 2 years, 2.5 years.
And when did you start writing the book? It was I'm going to assume it was much time while you were still in the marriage because you talked about his addiction in the book, right?
Well, I kind of go back to it. So I started writing a year and a half ago. And we had pretty much been separated about 3 years. So that was prior to the 2 years of time of divorce. So there's been quite a bit of time that we hadn't been together. But a year and a half ago is when I started writing, and about 2 years is when I filed for divorce.
Okay, so a year and a half. That's pretty quick. God is moving you pretty quick.
Yeah, I say. And that was another thing where I felt like it's too short. I remember telling one of my friends, I'm like, I don't want it to be a 20-page essay. Like I could do a blog for that. But then I was like, I don't want it to be a blog. If I've come this far, and so I kind of was like, it's kind of short. But then I said, well, I said what I needed to say. And I think I covered the areas where I felt like women needed to hear. So then I'm done. It doesn't have to be a certain amount of pages. It just needs to do what I intended for it to do. And I think it's doing that.
Do you recall the first conversation you had with your ex-husband and telling him, I'm writing a book, I want you to know, because I understand you guys have a very healthy co-parenting relationship, right?
Yes.
So do you
Pretty
recall
much.
that conversation? I mean, how was he feeling about that?
Well, so like I said, he has done some writing himself, and I've really encouraged him to do that because he has the story himself. But I just told him, I said, hey, I'm going to be writing a book, and it's about you. So I'm not asking for your permission, but I would like your blessing, And he said, well, I said, I just want to help people, and he said, well, that's all we ever wanted to do. Go for it.
Ooh, I like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So who is your book going to help? It's going to help me. I've been divorced over 30 years. Is it going to help me?
I think what it will do is it normalizes healing. It normalizes the necessity of therapy. It normalizes creating safe spaces for yourself. And I think sometimes our culture makes it puts a barrier to that. And so we spend a lot of time angry and bitter and upset about our experience instead of learning from it. And so I think that will give people permission. I think it'll give people the permission to heal, and hopefully it'll inspire them to want to heal and to want to live a full life and be the cake, if you will, without the sweetness of icing or the sweetness of marriage or what have you. And I'm very clear in my book about negative people people who've had negative marital experiences, kind of influencing other people, and their appetite for marriage. I think marriage is a beautiful thing. I know that I'm a wife, so I want people to experience that, but I also want people who've experienced the opposite of that or who have experienced divorce to know that you can still live a beautiful life outside of that. That does not have to be your portion. Just because you were a divorcee doesn't mean that you have to live in that. So I'm hoping that it'll help anyone. It's so funny. My one of my good friends sent me a picture of her daughter, who is like 12, who just couldn't believe that her friend was an author and that she just really wanted to read the book. And she sent me a picture and she was in it, like in it. And she was just talking about, I talk about forgiveness, and she's like, I'm interested to know what she'll get out of it. It's not an inappropriate book, so anybody can read it. My children are reading it. So I think anybody can take something from it. I'm hoping that men can take something from it because there are some women that, make marriage hard. So although I'm a woman, although I wrote to women specifically, I think men can get something from it as well.
Okay, so men and women, youth and, postmenopause or whatever age I am. We can all get something out of it. And I'm just a believer that any book can give you some health, but this one really sounds like I got to read it too, because your reviews. One lady on your Facebook page says something about she laughed and she cried. And that made me want to read the book. I was like, oh yeah, I gotta, because I know it probably came from your heart.
Oh, absolutely.
We have a comment. Vincent is saying, awesome. He commented a while ago, a couple of minutes ago. So thanks for watching, Vincent. We
Thank
appreciate you. Okay, so I lost my train of thought. Oh Lord, let me go back here and read another comment since I lost my train of thought. And then see. It says cake without icing is a look into, this is not a comment. This is your narrative on it. It's kind of a briefing. With frankness and vulnerability, NiKeidra tells her story from the beginning, showing us along the way how much she and her husband loved each other and how badly it hurt to watch as Tommy's addiction drove a greater and greater wedge between them. So I have a question for people who might have addiction showing up in their relationships, regardless of relationships, marriage, female, friend, siblings, whatever. When did you realize like this addiction is an issue? When did it start? At what point? Like, was it like, 10 years into your marriage, or when you first met and you thought, oh, we can get around that? I mean, were there red flags?
No, it had been over 10 years that we had been together when he told me about it. I had seen some things and a couple people had told me some things, but I didn't, I was like, that I'm not seeing it. I don't know. I'm going to trust my husband, And so it didn't really start to show up. He was good at hiding it. It didn't really show up until when it got to the point where he had to tell me. And then once he did tell me, I think the difficult thing is that I still wanted to try, but his addiction was keeping him away. So it wasn't like I left, he left, because I think it was probably difficult for him to see us hurt knowing what he was doing. So he would leave. So I think the hard part was just that I kept trying. I kept trying to figure out what can we send you? What can we do? What kind of rehabilitation center can you go to? So I was pressing, trying to, and he wasn't ready. And so that was difficult.
So I know that you have experience connecting with other humans through counseling, through talking with young girls. My question is, what would be your recommendation that if we're dealing with a mate with an addiction, how far do we let it go? And if we want it stopped, what do we do? I mean, it's strictly your recommendation, not as necessarily a psychological professional or anything, but just tossing it out from your perspective. What do you recommend?
Well, I think it's different for everybody. And that's kind of one of the things that I said in my book. Like, it doesn't have to be addiction. It could be violence. It could be anything. Everyone has, or it could be cheating, everyone has a threshold for what they can take. So everyone, some take some, it's longer. I know I mentioned in the book that my mom had said to me, you've had more patience than I've had in my relationships. And sometimes I wonder if I should have had more. And so I was able to hang on for longer than somebody else. And I encourage people, if you can make it work, if you can get the therapy that you need, if you can be honest with each other, to see each other on the other side of it, I say do it. I don't say stay in something that the other person is not trying to change. That was another thing that I talked about in my book, is being in the ring alone. I was ready to fight, but I was fighting alone, and so that it came to, it wasn't helpful. I'm still, I'm still seeing that. I still struggle with it. And so I just would tell, prayer, of course, I think was the biggest thing. And that helped me it didn't change my situation, but it helped me to get through that, so it doesn't always change it, but it'll kind of, it will insulate you with what you need in order to be able to live through it, or get around it or what have you. And so I just would encourage people, like, if you have the fight in you, fight. But if that person is not willing to fight with you, you have to you have to know when to go.
You wouldn't say when?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's the message. There's hope, but you got to know when to say when, huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I love that. Is there anything you'd like to leave with us? You just about covered it without talking about the entire book, and we don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
What's next for you?
It's so crazy because, like I said, I had no intention of any of, once I decided I was going to write the book, I was like, okay, I'm going to put it out there. And then I've had people encourage me. My marketing person was like, okay, in December, let's talk about the book tour. So that has kind of been exciting to think about, that I could potentially, travel to do that. I speak on a regular basis anyway, and I enjoy talking to people, and I enjoy sharing, and I enjoy for the light to come on for people. And so I'm hoping that that's what this season of my life will offer, is me being able to continue to influence, encourage, and inspire other people, where they are, no matter what it is that they're going through or what they're experiencing, that I will get the platform to be able to do those things. So I'm thinking a book tour. We'll see.
Okay. Michigan definitely is on the radar. I know, hint, hint.
Oh, okay.
For your book tour. West Michigan, and then of course Detroit.
Oh, okay.
It'll be whatever you do will be a success. I can feel it. I can
Thank you.
absolutely feel it. You have wonderful reviews on Amazon, and I'm gonna go in there and get me one of those books and read it, and then gift it to somebody who can also use it.
Absolutely. That would be awesome. And
Yes.
leave your feedback or text me or something so I know what you think.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for your time, NiKeidra. I really appreciate it. I wish you all the success with your book and your tour, and for whatever else God has in store for it. Just close your eyes and say, Lord, lead me. I know you're gonna follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Yes. And thank you everyone for watching. If this is your first time, please subscribe. You've been watching Passion Speak, where we give those of the passion a platform to speak. And today's guest is NiKeidra DeBarge of NiKeidradDeBarge.com. Please go run out and get her book, Cake Without Icing. I Saved a Piece for Me. Thank you.